This is Peter Walsh with M&R.
Scott Ritter with the Decorated Apparel Expo.
This is Ben Landesman with Lawson Screen and Digital Products.
This is Deborah Sexton.
And you're listening to the Two Regular Guys
Podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs
and Aaron Montgomery.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. It is Friday, February 12th, 2021. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. Today, Terry, we're going to be welcoming in a really good friend of ours, Johnny Shell. And today, the topic is going to be Stop Leaking Money. I think we could all use a little information on that in today's world of COVID and trying to figure out new things. And within that, trying to figure out new things, there's an opportunity to leak a little bit of money. So Johnny is going to help us with that topic. I'm really excited to welcome Johnny in, Terry. This is not a slight on you in any way, shape, or form, but in the screen printing world, there's not too many people that are of the caliber of just giving and just an amazing guy like Johnny. And he's out there and available. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you've got this resource in Johnny out there that you need to be looking at. So I'm really excited to talk to Johnny today.
You know, Aaron, when somebody asks me about a new product or, new equipment, new inks, things like that, and if I don't know about it, Johnny is my first call. So
yeah, exactly.
He's the resource.
Yeah, for sure. So. I remember, was it a couple of years ago, Terry, where we were like, hey, what are we thinking about these? I can't even remember what it was, but the kind of the new printing technology that we're seeing out there. And we're like,
the UV printers.
Yeah. It's like, and he's like, well, I don't know, but I'll find out. And he showed up, and it was some of the best information we've provided here on the Two Regular Guys. So,
absolutely.
No, awesome. So really looking forward to that today, Terry. Let's check in with some of our regulators who are tuning in here. We got Christine checking in, says good morning from very cold and white north. Yep. We were talking before the show, Terry, about the unbelievable, or what was the other term that was used?
Something like incredible snowstorm.
Yeah,
historic.
Yeah. So down there in the Texas, Oklahoma area, sounds like they're getting hammered or going to be getting hammered. So I had a thing come up on my phone today with the AccuWeather lead meteorologist talking on his podcast saying, this is unbelievable weather that we're going to be experiencing. I'm like, I don't like those words when it comes to winter weather. But hey, you know what? It is what it is. So we're all stuck inside anyways. So just, stay warm.
I sent out an overnight package to a company in Oklahoma City on Wednesday, and I checked today, and all it said was check back tomorrow. I mean,
it's like, good try.
we're not even going to guess. Just check and see tomorrow. But nice. I guess nobody needs to hear this, but 72 in Phoenix today.
Oh God, 9 inches of sunshine, no end in sight. Yes, we've heard it before.
It's still coming down.
I love it. I think I talked you into using that at your DTG Academy. Actually, I think I heard you say that at one point.
I did say it. I kind of cross-pollinate my broadcast. So.
There you go. I love it.
As I'm sure you do.
Yes, 100%. All right. Well, also checking in, Todd, good morning. And we've got Nan, good morning. And Cheryl and Jeff, who was just with us last week, checking in. Thanks for being here, Jeff. And Wade and Michelle, Mr. James Ortolani, Alan Howe, Becky, Valerie, Elise, 16 degrees in Maine. Yeah, it was 10 degrees here in St. Louis. So we already heard, Terry, 72. We got it. Thank you. All right. Well, excellent. Thank you guys so much for checking in. Terry, let's Allison says balmy 29 in Maryland. So
balmy.
Actually, that is probably more than
comparatively.
Yeah, exactly. All things equal. Yes. All right. So, and then we got Gustav from Sweden. So we don't even need to, so what is it Celsius over there in Sweden? And David Gross checking in from Condi. I believe the offices in Condi are at a very lovely, 68, 70 degrees, David. So, and Chris Hines. And yes, so we've got all the weather reports. Cold is typical, except for Terry and everybody else. Thank you so much for being here. Terry, let's do a dad joke. Valentine's coming up this weekend.
Valentine's this weekend, exactly. So, and you have yet another Valentine's dad joke, just like last week.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, I actually remembered that it was mine. So, hey. All right, Terry, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Drum roll. No, okay. What did the stamp say to the envelope on Valentine's Day?
I don't know, Aaron. What did the stamp say to the envelope?
He said, "I'm stuck on you."
Ooh, that's a groaner.
Yeah, indeed. I can't remember where I saw these, and so I cannot take credit for them. I did borrow them from somewhere, but
oh, buddy. All right. Well, Aaron, before we jump in with Johnny, we want to thank everyone for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We are always looking for new guests. If you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2. That's the number 2. Regular Guys with your show ideas. If you're listening to the podcast version, we would appreciate you sharing with your friends so they can become regulators too. Plus, we would love and appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and now on Amazon Podcasts. If you're watching us live, please join in with comments and questions. Here's a great opportunity to talk to an expert in Johnny Shell. Reach out to your industry friends and ask them to join us as well.
Yes, indeed. So looking forward to, just bringing more people in here. Let's have this conversation about stopping leaking money. And this is going to be a great conversation. One other quick note here, Terry, is that we are working with the different trade show groups. We're kind of bringing them all together. That they are fantastic to work with. We've got some ideas bouncing around. So you'll be seeing more about what's coming up in the trade show world, because fingers crossed, we're going to be getting back to some live shows still yet this year. They've got them on the schedule, and we want to make sure that we get everybody's knowing about where to go so we can all go see each other again, right? Masks on and everything, and go on from there. So stay tuned to this segment next week. Hopefully we'll get that all ironed out. They're actually waiting on me at this point. So shocker there, right? All right. So let's do this here. Let's see here what we've got to just check a couple comments here. Yep. All right. So Christine on the dad joke said, saw that coming and couldn't avoid it. Yeah. So we got to get, we even give you plenty of time too, Christine. So you could just mute for that part, right? Okay.
I've got a really good one for next week. I'm just saying.
All right. I'm excited about that already.
It's about space.
We've had a couple of good ones about space already too. It's not the space bar, is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
It's an all new one.
Oh man, I like it. All right. So Chris Hines did say, how do you get a squirrel to like you? Act like a nut. So there we go. So I'm glad that we encourage dad jokes here. And who also encourages dad jokes, Terry, is Lisa Shaw. So we were tagged on another dad joke, or I was tagged on another dad joke. I don't know if you were this time or not. I'll tag you on it as well. But so
I don't know.
I don't think we're ever going to run out of good dad jokes to have, especially since you and I already have some of our own too. So
true enough.
All right, so let's get Johnny in here. Johnny Shell is the president of Shell Consulting Services and provides printing strategy and operations consulting to get businesses tuned up or completely turned around. Johnny is a recognized industry leader with 35 years of experience with a solid commitment to organizational advancement and strategy-driven growth. He has transformed many businesses around the globe by designing and executing revenue-based strategies using his comprehensive knowledge of printing techniques and technology platforms. Johnny was a 2011 inductee of the Academy of Screen and Digital Printing Technologies, an international body of experts that honor qualified individuals through election to the membership for their distinguished long-term contributions to an application and promotion of screen and digital printing and associated imaging technology. So welcome into the show, Johnny Shell.
Hey guys, good to be with you. Thanks for having me, and it's great to see you after all these many months.
Exactly right.
It has been a long time, and yeah, so it's good to. Hey, at least we're here, right? We're going to get to that point where we can actually shake hands, maybe enjoy a beer together. But right now, this is what we got to do.
What we got, for sure.
I disinfected my microphone so as not to infect anyone.
Thank you, Terry. We appreciate that.
So Johnny, I love this subject you came up with, stop leaking money, because, when times are good, we're just too busy to pay attention to the drip, drip, drip of money, So, and with the pandemic, though, some people have just cruised straight forward, or other people shifted gears and found success in the pandemic. But a lot of us are happy just had the lights on. So this is a rare opportunity, really, and it is an opportunity where we can become more efficient, do things better, and do it for less money. So let's dive in.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I was just going to kind of echo what Terry was saying there. The drip, drip, drip ultimately adds up to a mountain. And especially in these times, folks, we've got to be on top of our game as the industry starts to recover from the pandemic. And that day will come, just like Aaron said. We're going to be with each other, hopefully sooner versus later. But until that point, now is the time to pivot, focus, retool, what have you, to get your business primed and ready for what's coming.
Yeah. And Johnny, within that, when you talk about getting your business primed and ready for getting back to it, that's certainly something. But I think another part of this too is, we need to also be aware of these things more so now than ever, because we can't afford to drip money. We can't afford to be inefficient, right? We had to be lean. Yep. So, there's definitely something to be said there too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, you said something pretty interesting. I believe many owners and managers maybe haven't considered. With all the closures of businesses, there will be market share to capture when the green flag waves. You said get ready for this. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that day will eventually come. I think we're starting to see a bit of an uptick now in the industry. Things are opening up, so to speak. Let's be honest, guys. The decorated apparel industry has suffered a huge blow with the pandemic. No music concerts, no close quarters with other people, restaurants, those kind of things that have ultimately been customers of apparel decorators, with t-shirts and hats and other apparel items. And we've got to be ready, like you say, when the green flag waves. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of businesses that have closed, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, which has that leaves available market share once that green light lights. So, with each new week of this pandemic, I think owners of the surviving print businesses, they continue to move their focus from protecting the business to ultimately what's recovery going to look like and how can we retool. They continually ask themselves, how do we learn during this crisis and retool and reformat and reshape our business so that we emerge as winners in whatever the future will be. And so while consulting with some of these businesses and during all this, I've identified three major trends. Cool. First, these folks view the COVID-19 crisis as a dress rehearsal for a more turbulent world to come. And this won't be the last time we face any kind of biological threat with virus or what have you. In fact, as the world population continues to grow, we should expect more viruses and situations like this, these viruses may be resistant to medical science. So what does that mean for the decorated apparel company? What have we learned during the current crisis that we can use moving forward? Many of these companies have also looked back to the CEOs from the beginning of World War II, because it's not necessarily a apples to apples comparison, but it is at least analogous with the current situation. And these folks in World War II, they really faced the last great global supply and demand shock. We've all been to the grocery stores and they haven't had, toilet paper or paper towels, or that's a disruption to the supply chain. And more so in the decorated apparel, we all know of the blank shortages and hoodie shortages and other things that have been very difficult to obtain. But back in the 1940s, the leading CEOs recognized the big idea, which emerged from the war, and that is marrying mass production with a global mindset. They envisioned new and expanded boundaries for the organization, most notably the role of public-private partnerships, which became a critical source of creating a competitive advantage. And that's, I can't emphasize that enough, a competitive advantage. They understood that after the war, new customer segments would emerge with radically new and different needs. And we've seen that actually in the decorated apparel industry. A lot of companies pivoted quickly to print face masks. That's great. That was a way to capitalize on an opportunity. And that's what America's all about, is capitalizing on opportunities. And these leaders that retooled their companies based on these lessons outperformed their competition back in the 1940s.
Yeah. Okay.
So these folks are demonstrating the ideology of the 1940 counterparts, and they're transforming their business into a winning organization of and for the future. During kind of this research, if you will, it was not really a hard and fast research project I did. I just kind of had my ears open and talking with these folks as I was consulting. But I heard three main directives they shared with their staff. First, talk with your most important customers now, and let them know you're still here, you still offer solutions, but that's really important. The second thing I heard was avoid a bounce back to the old ways of working. We all know things have changed, and we can't just, once all this is done and over, we just go back to the old way we did things, right? If we've learned anything during this, is we can't do the old ways anymore.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I heard was let the company's values and principles guide every decision that's made. And if you don't have values and principles or a mission statement or anything like that, you should sit down immediately and start developing them, because that is your guiding light. That's your beacon on the horizon that you're aiming the ship toward, right?
Yeah.
So we have to let those values and principles guide all the decisions that a company makes. And I would strongly suggest, really, if you haven't already, now is the time to conduct a thorough audit of your entire business and operation. What market opportunities, what market share opportunities exist, and how do you capitalize on those opportunities? What can you make better? What isn't working, or what isn't really needed, be it a piece of equipment or a process or what have you? Trim the fat, so to speak.
Yeah.
What is needed? What equipment or tools or anything like that don't you have, but you will need, and how soon can you put that in budgetary expenditures, right?
Yeah.
You have to plan now. These are just a few examples, and I'm happy to help anyone conduct an audit to identify gaps and opportunities to improve their shops. When we do bounce back, and that's inevitable, like I said, you want to be ready to capture the market share that's left behind by those unfortunate businesses that were forced to close. What you don't want is to return to the old ways where you were leaking money.
Yeah.
I love that. Avoid bouncing back to the old ways of working. That's great advice.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other, of those three things that you had kind of noted there, that was the second one, avoid bouncing back to the old ways of working. I also love let the company's values and principles guide all decisions. And I find that so much throughout businesses, regardless of size, is that, even the largest businesses kind of maybe sometimes either lose their way or never really took that opportunity to make sure that they had a way, right? So I think this is great, and if you can help some folks kind of go through that process and audit their business for all of these things. I mean, we're talking about, like you said, from vision all the way down to what are the processes that are broken? Where can we trim the fat and still, provide the best possible product and service to our customers, right?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Johnny, let's talk. You mentioned equipment. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the things we can do to stop the bleeding there?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. This is one of the most overlooked aspects in the printing business, and I've seen it firsthand in the consulting that I've done. Many owners simply just ignore routine maintenance of their assets and are surprised when something breaks down or becomes inoperable. How could this happen? I paid, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands for this piece of equipment. How dare it break? Well, when something breaks, it needs to be fixed as soon as possible and not have Band-Aids as the final resolution. Now, I get it. Screen printers especially can be very innovative, right? Rubber bands and duct tape and WD-40.
Lots of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if their fix works, well, then it isn't broken, right? But you've got to understand that these Band-Aids don't resolve the underlying issue. They just mask them. And ultimately it snowballs. And one day you come into the shop and everything's busted and broken. And guess what? You have zero production for that day because you've got to chase your tail trying to get things fixed, right?
Yeah. And I think, Johnny, before you keep going there, the other thing I want to point out is we've seen also where some of these quote unquote fixes, these Band-Aids, then become the I don't know. Well, like people are now teaching that as this is the way you should do it. They're like, oh, whoa, that's a Band-Aid. Stop, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Something's gone wrong. I found a workaround, so now that's the standard.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a great example. Recently, I was doing some consulting work for a shop, and my main objectives, this is what I was hired to do, were to train staff and optimize their workflow. They had a lot of staff turnover, which a lot of printing businesses have over the last few years. And a lot of the prior knowledge and skill sets that they once had left the company. They had just gotten a brand new CTS machine, and they had just hired a new production artist who didn't have much screen printing experience in her knowledge base, right?
Yeah.
I did a couple of observations over the course of a couple of days, and I identified several reasons and issues in their production workflow, especially in the pre-press and screen making departments, that I focused on at the very beginning. So when I first got on site, I said, I've got to fix these things first before we can even discuss training the press operators, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their production artists knew very little about how screen printing art should be put together. So I spent about a week with this person training them on how to properly pull together screen printing art, right? The average time this person spent on a 1 and 2 color job was about 4 to 6 hours just to get the art production ready, which is ridiculous. I mean, if you think about it, a simple 2 color Joe's Landscaping with a dump truck on it, she was spending about 4 to 6 hours getting that ready for production. And it shouldn't really take more than an hour to do simple designs like that. Now, if you're obviously it's a lot different if you're doing an 8 color simulated process job or a 4 color process job, things like that are more complex. Yeah. But simple vector art, it shouldn't take very long at all to get that production art ready.
That's leaking money right there. Wow.
That is absolutely leaking money. That's a prime example.
And Johnny, it's if she doesn't know the standard, she probably thought, hey, I'm doing this exactly the way I'm supposed to. She doesn't if she doesn't have you to say, this should be done in 30 minutes, an hour. And then all of a sudden she kind of reworks the way she approaches the project. But you have to have a standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you have to understand in this instance how screen printing works, right? So I spent a lot of time, training their artists on properly constructing art. The next phase was their screen making, which was all over the place. Their screen tension was anywhere from 17 newtons up to no more than 22, 23 newtons. And they did a lot of 4 color process at this place. So that in and of itself is a huge leak and profits. Translate that into the press operator's perspective, who spent lots of time just simply registering the job. If you're somewhat familiar with screen printing, you know that within any job, you should have no more than, say, plus or minus 2 newtons tension difference among the screens in that job. So when you've got tension ranging from 17 to 24, especially on a 4 color process job, it's going to be a nightmare and
Right.
cause excessive press setup times and things like that. So they were also not using a pre-registration system, which resulting in just eyeballing registration and manually printing it, right? They were using the registration tape and the old, push the screen down and turn the knob kind of thing to get it and register. Now, fortunately, their CTS system did come with a pre-registration system that came with it, and it drastically reduced the setup times, which was a step in the right direction. They were coating screens the wrong way, with the last coat of emulsion being applied to the substrate side and then drying the screen with the substrate side facing up. They were, sorry, I lost my note here. The place was filthy, dust everywhere, ink splatter. You couldn't touch 1 square inch without getting ink on you. One job they ran one day, it was 25 pieces, and it was a 1-color white, left chest. And I swear the operator put 4 quarts of ink into the screen for 25 pieces of a left chest. That was no more than, I'll say, 1.5 inches by 3 or 4 inches, Wow. And she had way too much ink in the screen. Well, what does that mean? Well, that translates into, once she scoops all that ink in, which is time, after the 25 pieces are done, she's got to scoop all that ink back out. Not to mention it's spreading all over the place and affecting jobs down the road. So that was an issue. I tried to really hone in on and help them understand time is money. If you don't have shirts dropping off the end of the dryer in a screen printing shop, you're not making money. So as I worked to make changes in pre-press and screen making and things like that, the owner kept coming to me saying, I need you to train the operators. I need faster setups on the presses. But little did this person know that the reason the press operators were having such a difficult time setting up jobs was due in part to the poor screen making. Yeah. So
he needed you to jump ahead and put a Band-Aid on the
Well,
and Johnny, something else you said too about the shop being filthy. I've always found going into shops that the really clean shops, they did really good work. The shops that are just a mess, it was a reflection of the type of work they do.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion cleanup is part of the job, right?
And there's a song that goes with that. But
we get our blinders on, and we have to produce as many pieces as possible in the time given.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you end up in a situation like I just described, where ink was on every piece of equipment. You couldn't touch one thing, literally, not one thing, without getting ink on you. So anyway, as I worked to make these changes, the owner kept saying, I need you to train the operators. I need you to train the operators. So one of the biggest problems was matching previously run jobs, right? They did a lot of 4-color process, and it was a nightmare every time a 4-color process job came to the press to, first of all, get it to look right, but second, to get it to match what had been previously run. Of course, there was no documentation. Everything was all over the place, so nothing was being controlled. The presses they were working on were over 25 years old. Now, that's not a bad thing, but the problem is they had an 8 and a 12-color press, and they both had major issues. They had never been maintained or recalibrated. The head pressure gauges were broken. On-off switches and pneumatic pistons to hold the squeegees and flood bars were broken. So the operators were literally using clamps to hold the squeegees and flood bars on the print head. Entire print heads were broken. Platens were not level. The press hadn't been calibrated since they were installed.
Wow.
And really, calibration of printing presses, you should at least do that, I'd say, once a year, depending on the volume of your shop, more frequently for higher volume shops. But I just did a job here in Virginia where we recalibrated 2 printing presses, got them level and plane and all that stuff that goes with that. And their productivity, their setup time immediately went through the roof. So anyway, the squeegees had never been sharpened in this shop I was talking about. All of this resulted in the company just leaking lots of money, which the owner thought was simply due to the press operators, right? It's their fault. They're not doing. So I explained that, no matter what, I can train your operators for weeks and days on end, but it would, given the current situation, it'd be like trying to teach them to drive a car without spark plugs and gasoline and a transmission and a steering wheel, right? It's just, you can only go so far given the tools, these folks had to work with. I submitted 5 pages of suggestions, which, hey, these are nice to do if you want to, kind of thing, and strong recommendations. You really should do this. You really, 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 really should do this. And all of these, of course, were ignored by the owner, who simply thought, well, it was the operator's fault. That's why I'm not making money. That's why we don't have quick setup times. So at first, they felt uncomfortable using the pre-registration system I was talking about, but it was new. We don't like working outside of our comfort zone. But one day, I followed a 4-color process job from beginning to end, right? I made sure all the screens that were being used were within that +2 Newton tolerance, that the screens were coded properly, that they were imaged properly on the CTS system, and that they were exposed and developed properly. When the screens made it to press, I insisted that the press operator use the pre-registration system. In this case, it was a M&R Tri-Lock, which is a real popular pre-registration system on the market. When they started, I started my timer on the phone. And from the moment the first screen was inserted until the final approval, it took 6 minutes and 48 seconds for a 4-color job. Now compare this to their normal 1 to 4 hour setup for each job that they normally took. You can immediately see that this leak was stopped, all by simply making sure everything fell in line and that the system was optimized for quick setup. These are small issues where a shop leaks money, but like I said earlier, over time, these leaks amount to a mountain of lost profit. Yeah. And like I say, this is just an example of a screen printing business, but I see the same in direct to garment and dye sub businesses. They don't follow simple maintenance practices that every manufacturer, and Terry can speak to this, every manufacturer includes with their machine their suggested and strongly recommended maintenance, either at some level, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual. And right. You really have to do these to keep the machine at optimum operating levels. Otherwise, it's going to fail and break down. Digital devices also like to print at least once a day, if not more. And I've talked to hundreds of inkjet users who are frustrated because the machine doesn't work. And after asking a few questions, their normal response, it's something like, how often is it used? Well, I run it about once a week. Well, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't even have a digital technology if you're not running it more than once a week. Again, another no-no, because irregular, another frequently used comment I heard is, well, I have my printer out in my garage or some other awful location. Again, this is a big no-no because irregular environmental conditions affect the resulting color on a digital device. Color produced in low humidity conditions will be way different than color produced in a high humidity condition. So, and again, all manufacturers include optimum environmental conditions for their machines that include both temperature and humidity. Another aspect of digital is the print head. And we know the print heads go bad and that's a shame, but really a print head is a consumable. And without proper maintenance of the capping and spit stations and all the other recommendations that is included in the manufacturer's literature, the print heads are going to fail much quicker. And optimum conditions, they'll usually last at least a year. And even with some of the newer print heads, they're going to last way longer if properly maintained. And I'm a big advocate of planning for replacing a print head once a year. Whether or not it goes bad or not, you should really weave that into your costing so that when it does go bad, you've accounted for it in your costing and pricing, and therefore aren't left an alert, so to speak, without being able to pay for a new print head. So in poor conditions, without good maintenance, the head can go bad in as little as a month, if not, in the right conditions with the right maintenance, all due to owner neglect.
Yeah.
Now,
So, Johnny, I know, let me just really quick jump in here because we've covered such a tremendous amount of ground here. So back to our screen printing thing here real quick. In fact, Jeff Schulzman has a quote here. Says, our favorite t-shirt is never time to do it right, always time to do it over.
Yeah.
And Alan Howe follows that up with, most companies have a high pain threshold. The small drips bleed is not felt in good busy times, but it still sucks the life out of you. And I think you gave us so many fantastic examples in that thing there of, again, is it going to kill you today? No, but will it kill you over time? Absolutely. And when you're trying to, fix this thing at the end and you don't look at the whole process like you were doing, and that can become very short-sighted of people. And so I just wanted to kind of bring those up. Todd Downing says every minute saved is $1 earned. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one other thing kind of to weave into this discussion, and not that we're in a recession, but when economic times are bad and people get laid off, the printing industry sees an influx. It's cheap to get started, relatively speaking, compared to other businesses. But they get into it and are overwhelmed with what needs to occur, what needs to be maintained, all these things. But then at the end, when they have to shut the doors, they blame the technology without a full understanding of what's in. It's hard to run a business. That's why a lot of businesses fail. It's not easy. But printing is a great, great industry, and there's a lot of gratification, a lot of profit to be made. But you got to stay on top of your game, that's for sure. And I get it. The times are extremely tough, and money is not growing on trees. But this is why it's so important to monitor and track and repair and fix things when they are broken. Otherwise, the money just continues to leak out. And with that, be sure to microanalyze your costing during your audit. Are you charging appropriately, and how do you know? Are you calling competitors to see what they would charge? The decorated apparel industry shouldn't be a race to the bottom. We're too important for that.
Yeah.
Quality, speed of service, and price, which, as many of you know, in marketing and advertising circles, that's the unattainable triangle, right? It's an old adage that high quality products delivered quickly and efficiently to customers will always come at a higher price, and vice versa. And if you don't have a clear understanding of your costs, it's impossible to price your products and make a decent profit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Todd says, yes, stop the rat race to the bottom. Like you said, it's too important. What the decorating industry does is we're providing tangible products that equate to memories and giving us a sense of purpose and belonging. Think about what we talked about last week, Terry, and with Jeff. People are looking to have things printed for the cause they believe in, and where do we fit into that, right? And typically, what I feel like we determined was we don't fit into the let's just get every dollar and race ourselves to the bottom and turn ourselves into a commodity. So these are really fantastic points, Johnny.
Johnny, it's funny when you talked about the downturn in the economy and it's inexpensive to become a decorator. Every time there's a downturn, my screen printing classes have waiting lists to get in. So you're exactly correct on that, and I love when you talk about the print head being a commodity. It's just like screens. I always try to explain that to people that this is a consumable.
Yeah.
This is something that you are going to replace. So when you took all your life savings, you bought a press, you bought some ink, and you bought some screens. Guess what? You're going to have to buy more ink. You're going to have to buy more screens in this process. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Same with squeegees. And you're right. I mean, these are all consumables that should be calculated in with costing so that you can appropriately price your products.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of companies leak money. They ignore these things and well, this squeegee's got 500,000 impressions on it. It'll be good for another 1.5 million. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I was talking to somebody at a trade show one time, and when you're talking about racing to the bottom, and he said to me, well, I have a DTG printer, but you can't get more than $15 in my town for a DTG printed shirt. And I'm looked at his badge and I said, you live in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah. And I said, that's the largest city in Ohio. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, if you can't get more than $15, you're just talking to the wrong people. So, sometimes we have to do that too.
Yeah. Well, Terry, I love your story. I don't know if you still tell it or not, but the guy at the car show who's got the DTG printer back over in his truck, and he takes a picture of the guy's car, goes back, prints one, and then goes and holds it up to the guy, and the guy's jaw hits the ground, and he wants to know how much. And I think it was $40 or $50.
$40.
2 days later, the same guy calls and says, I need 5 more. Okay, $50 a piece.
Yeah,
exactly right. And that's what the guy does for a living.
Yeah.
Johnny, I'll tell you this: he definitely still tells that story. And I can retell all of these stories. Kidding. I'm teasing you, Terry. All right. So
some people say that my stories though get bigger and better as they go.
It's like a fishing caught, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, Johnny, I love also the part where you talk about we got to price our products right. And we have to understand what those consumables are and what are those things that we're going to need. Jeff Schutzman says, don't forget your computers, your software, your websites all have lifetimes without maintenance. And those are all costs. And honestly, that's a huge part of what we do over at our Success Group is we get people those foundational tools to figure out, how are we going to price this product if I don't even know how much it costs me to be in business every day? But that's a whole different thing. And you guys were talking about tools there. So let's go down that road a little bit, hand in hand with equipment. You mentioned squeegees. We talked about this, but what can we do differently incorporating tools that we use into our business?
Yeah, that's a great point, Aaron. There are a ton of tools that companies can use to improve their productivity, offer new products and techniques to their customers, really using a lot of the same equipment they already have. I'll start with some of the tools that are available for screen printers.
Sure.
I mentioned using a pre-registration system and gave that example of the setup time that they achieved based on compared to their normal setup time before the pre-registration system was put in place. So if you haven't already calculated the kind of savings in your head, let me kind of break it down for you.
Sure.
The company could process about 30 jobs a day based on a 30-minute runtime versus 4.5 jobs a day based on the minimum of their 1 to 4 hour setup. So at 1 hour per setup, they could run about 4.5 jobs a day versus 30 jobs a day. Now, of course, these numbers are going to vary based on the skill set and the equipment features and other variables. Not to mention, 30 jobs a day is likely not going to be the norm. Still, whatever the average ends up being, it's going to most likely be higher than 4.5 jobs a day, right? Many shops don't own a squeegee sharpener, and we talked about this just a moment ago. They don't get optimum print results on their products. Squeegees should be either sharpened or replaced after 10,000 impressions. If you can't afford a squeegee sharpener, at the very least, just order some replacement rubber and change the rubber out in your squeegee holders. After they reach that 10,000 or so impressions, you don't have to stop the press when it reaches the 10,000 mark, but
right.
If you do have a squeegee sharpener, use it. I walk into many shops who've got a squeegee sharpener, and guess where it is? It's over back in the corner over there, covered in dust and stacks of paper and old shirts. It can't be a catch-all. If you're going to buy a tool, you got to use it, And what's the point of investing the money if you're just going to let it sit over there and collect dust? Another tool that should be utilized is software. And believe me, there's a ton of available options regarding software. Let's start with separation software. They save you lots of time in pre-press.
Yep.
Now, granted, these are automatic softwares that take a piece of art and separate it out however you want it. 4-color process, simulated, a vector spot color job, whatever. Many of them can do all kind of different separations. Yes, with these packages, a lot of times the prints are going to look a little different versus what you ran in the past. But the main point to keep in mind is you're trying to save money. And so over time, these results are going to become the norm, not the exception. Don't get caught up in the blinded by the headlights. Oh my gosh, this separation that the software did doesn't come out looking anything close. And a lot of the softwares do allow you to go in and tweak if you want to, but just remember, you're trying to save time. And the definition of quality, guys, meeting the customer's requirements. So if the customer's happy, don't beat yourself over the head going, well, this doesn't look like what we did last time, right? That's not the objective here. The objective is to get jobs in and through the production cycle as quickly as possible. And separation software is a way to do that. E-commerce. This is going to be, if not already, I mean, it already is a huge part of the landscape, right? Is the engine, e-commerce software is an engine kind of behind the scenes of an online store. So it makes it possible to easily manage inventory, add or remove products, calculate the taxes, and everything else required to manage a website and fulfill orders. And in case you haven't noticed, online sales is a new frontier in the decorated apparel industry. We've all seen the Amazon explosion during the pandemic, and we've become much more comfortable as consumers buying goods online and not being surprised when we get them, and this will certainly be a major part of the new normal. So if you don't already have an online store or some type of e-commerce, you should really check into that. It just makes working with customers are able to come in and place their orders, and really it's a seamless thing as we become more and more confident in using online type platforms, right? The last one I think I have here is management software. And if you don't have management software, these enable you to track your screen printing, your embroidery, direct to garment, dye sub, and other production related jobs without hassle. They help you create faster and more accurate estimates. They allow for invoicing and much more. And they're designed really to streamline and automate the production process, right? So that it's seamless and it lessens the complexity of jobs and provides the necessary details and scheduling to the production staff. Communication and efficiency are key here, and these management softwares provide a way to keep everyone on the same page. Those were kind of generic related to screen printing, but specific to digital decorators, because I know you guys have a lot of those folks that tune in. Color management software and hardware can't be understated. They enable a company to control the output of color from a digital device, be it dye sublimation, direct to garment, what have you. Now, yes, many of these devices already come with pre-canned and preloaded ICC profiles, but you got to keep in mind, where was that ICC profile generated? Was it in the same environment that I'm in, be it Florida where the humidity is higher in the summer, be it Colorado where the humidity is dry in the winter? So you got to kind of keep that in mind and ultimately ask yourself, should I do my own color management, right? And this is another area I can certainly help with, but the key there is, the ICC profile may or may not be created in the same environment that you are in and may not produce optimum color in your current operating conditions. On the screen print side, there are many tools, a shop can use. We've hammered using a tension meter for decades now, and I believe finally the message is clear and I kind of finally gotten through. And I've seen them in a lot of shops that I visit, but when I ask about calibration of the tension meter, they kind of scratch their head and go, I got to calibrate it? Yeah, you should send the tension meter back once a year to whoever you bought it from and have them recalibrate it, because over time they drift. And when data drifts, you get out of sync with what your operating conditions and ranges should be. So be sure to send your tension meters back at least once a year. When tension falls below the acceptable range on a screen, you should send that back for remeshing. Tension, like Terry mentioned, a screen is a consumable. It's a thing that wears out, and you've got to remesh the mesh once it kind of loses tension. You can't, well, with the exception of retensionable frames where you can, but even still, that mesh will ultimately wear out. So remeshing is a big part of, a tool, if you will, to keep track of. Temperature probes are another great tool. I think the most popular one on the market is the Atkins AquaCheck, I believe they call it. It's a probe that is sent down the dryer tunnel with a shirt, and you can actually see when the temperature when the temperature rises, how fast it rises, how long it's at that optimum temperature, and then when it starts to fall off at the end of the tunnel. These go well beyond the capabilities of an IR gun, and many of you have them. They're cheap, they're inexpensive, and you just stand at the end of the dryer and shoot down at the shirt when it comes out. The same with temperature tape. Yeah, the tape tells you what the temperature got to. It doesn't tell you for how long it was there, though, So that temperature could have been achieved at the very end of the tunnel. And if you've got a thicker ink deposit, let's say on an athletic jersey or something, well, the ink may not be fully cured. So that's why the temperature probe is a great tool to have. You can literally fingerprint your dryer. And if you've got a wide belt, you can do left, middle, and center as it runs down to see if there's any fall off on the edges, things like that. The last thing I'll mention here is an electronic thickness gauge. Most shops really haphazardly coat their screens. I mentioned the shop I worked with earlier. They were coating their screens wrong, drying them wrong, and we're wondering why press setups were taking so long. So these folks like that, they pay little attention to the overall stencil thickness. And a thickness gauge allows you to track and monitor how thick the stencil is, and then set an acceptable range where you need to fall. Manual coating can produce a wide range of stencil thickness results, especially if you've got multiple people coating screens. And as my good friend Richard Greaves describes, he's got a great story to talk about this. The stencil thickness is kind of like a hamburger that you're cooking on a grill. The heat, in this case, the exposure light, must cook the stencil completely through. If the thickness varies from screen to screen, then the required light energy, the heat, to properly expose the screen must also vary due to that different thickness. So it's much like cooking, let's say you got a 1/4 pound hamburger versus a 1/2 pound hamburger. Well, it's going to take longer to cook a 1/2 pound hamburger on the same heat than a 1/4 pound hamburger. They each require different times on the grill. Of course, automatic coaters can kind of alleviate the whole stencil thickness variance. They're proven to produce results plus or minus 1 micron. You just need to know how to use the machine based on the meshes you use, because the optimum stencil thickness varies based on mesh. It's usually 7 to 10% of stencil thickness that you want to have above the mesh. It's called emulsion over mesh, but automatic coaters do a great job on that. I'm sorry to ramble on the tools, guys. I could go on for days about
that's awesome.
all the tools that are available to printers out there. But those are just some of the more popular ones I think should be emphasized.
Yeah, this is great information, and we love that you're bringing all this wonderful information to the regulators here, giving them, and I know enough about screen printing to be dangerous. So, and I've always said, hey, I'm going to go to the experts. I'm going to go to Terry. I'm going to go to Johnny and Alan Howe, people like that. But I love the hamburger analogy from Richard too. That's fantastic. So basically what I took from this is you don't want a medium rare hamburger when it comes to your stencil, right?
Well done.
Well done. Well done. Okay.
That's funny.
That's all right. I had to make that joke. So,
well,
all right,
Johnny, we're gonna have to bring you back because we had a whole bunch more questions we wanted to ask you. No but I do want to skip to the end here and ask, what is it that Johnny Schell can bring to the table for that company that's struggling with all these issues we've been talking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, my expertise really lies in knowing how to integrate and optimize and use any of the technologies I've discussed here: screen printing, direct to garment, dye sublimation, and how to strategically plan to either expand into new and different market segments or optimize what you already have in your shop. Remember, I said that business owners during World War II understood that after the war, new customer segments would emerge with radically new and different needs. And they strategized and planned appropriately so that once the war was over, they'd be in the best position to meet the needs of the customers.
Yep.
I have a thorough understanding of the variables associated with all the printing technologies that we've talked about and the various dimensions of their interrelationship and correlation with each other. I mean, screen printing alone has over 500 variables. So it's easy to understand why so many printing businesses fail. They just don't understand the variables involved, and they fail ultimately because they don't control them, and then they blame the process, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I know how to optimize any printing process while taking into consideration the variables, the ripple effect that can be expected when a change is made, be it either good or bad. And there's an upside and a downside to everything. You know, this business is a lot about trade-offs. And so you just have to understand that changing something will affect other things. And so I don't ignore either. You know, I just give a holistic view, if you will, of here's what this will mean, good and bad. Yeah. And finally, you know, I develop revenue-based solutions, as my bio mentioned when Aaron read it off. These revenue solutions and strategies, how do you take what you have and capitalize on it and produce new and different products entering new markets? You know, I have a good acumen on technology and what it can be used for. And we often get the blinders on. I'm a screen printer, you know, I'm a dye sub printer. Well, dye sub especially, that you can generate multiple lives with using just dye sub. And, you know, Aaron, you saw that with Skills USA.
Sure.
You know, mouse pads and T-shirts and metal signs and license plates, all using the exact same technology. So this is a complex business, you know, printing, like I said, and sometimes owners they get in their groove with the blinders on. So I can objectively kind of observe operations and their business strategy to identify where the money leaks are occurring, and then develop appropriate fixes and repairs to stop those leaks.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see the T-shirt for Johnny's services here, you know, the plumber, the leak fixer, right? He's going to plug those holes for you. This is my marketing's turned on right now. We're doing this. Awesome. So Johnny, thank you again. Like Terry said, we've got so much more that we can and will talk to you about. So stay tuned. We'll have Johnny back to continue this conversation. But for now, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that, Johnny?
Well, you know, I'm kind of easy to find. I'm on all the popular social media channels: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm not a big tweeter, but I am there. If you'll just search my name, Johnny Shell, look for this mug. Ultimately, you'll find me. And then I'm also available by email. That's johnnycshell@gmail.com. I've been quite busy, so I haven't actually had the opportunity to get a website set up, but that's kind of next on my list. And maybe I'll give you a call behind the curtain, Aaron, so you can help me understand.
I was just going to say, after the show's over, he's going to say, okay, well, what date are we going to do this by?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to, and then well, like I said, I've already got the logo idea. I mean, we're ready to go here. So. Perfect. So johnnycshell@gmail.com. Great way to get him, or find him on all the social media channels. Like I said, Johnny, this has been great. So much wonderful information. I know that you can really help businesses kind of get to that next level, or get through some of this too. You know, I mean, when we're talking about fixing leaks, we've got to fix the leaks right now. You know, like you said, it's inevitable that that time's going to come. But if we're already sunk before that time comes, then we can't take advantage of that market share. So sooner the better. Get in touch with Johnny and have him come in and fix those things. I mean, you mentioned the 5-page report you were able to provide somebody. That's fantastic, and at the end of the day, it's incumbent on them to take that information and do something with it. But boy, to have that information available to them, that's incredible. That's invaluable.
Yeah, and I'm objective. I'm an objective observer. I don't have a vested interest in the company, although I want to see everybody succeed. But I'm not like an owner who's got the blinders on, going, "Well, we can't get rid of that. I've got emotional attachment or whatever." Objective observer. Here's what I saw. Here's what I observed. Here's suggestions or recommendations on what I would do.
Wonderful. Awesome. All right, Johnny. Well, hang tight for 1 second because we've got you for 5 things as well here. And this is some really interesting and cool stuff that you've got for us. So, Eric, if you'll play us into 5 things, please. All right, Johnny, we are ready. So give us 5 things, please.
Sure. I love history, and so I thought I'd pull up some nuggets on the history of printing, if you will. Screen printing has first appeared in the Song Dynasty in China between 960 and 1270 AD. So this technology is over 1,000, almost 2,000 years old.
Wow.
Actually, 2,000. Yeah, right around 2,000 years old.
So you guys, I didn't invent it like you make it sound.
Yeah, Terry was born in 1271.
Nice. So what's number 2, Johnny?
Yeah, and the first iterations of screens were actually woven human hair. That was the mesh. Now later that was replaced with silk, but then ultimately polyester took over in the early 1900s. And that's the most popular material now used for screen mesh. Number 3, the first incarnation of an inkjet printer was invented by Lord Kelvin in 1867.
Wow.
So the inkjet printer is almost 150 years old, roughly.
Yeah.
The printer recorded his printer recorded telegraph signals. Then, and number 4, 1951, Siemens, who many of you know, they make all kind of electrical components for machinery and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They used an inkjet printer in hospital chart recorders to record either an electrical or mechanical system. So something like a heartbeat, right? They were using that to graph out the heartbeat or respiration, things like that.
Wow.
And then the final one, 1970s. That's when Epson, HP, Canon, some of the big players finally began developing inkjet printers. Literally, over 100 years after the first inkjet printer was invented by Lord Kelvin. So,
wow. Yeah.
Those are my 5 things.
Those are fantastic 5 things. The history of our decorating industry. I love it. Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, sure.
Appreciate that. And again, everybody check out Johnny, reach out to him on email or find him on social media. And Johnny, thank you so much for being with us today.
Guys, I really appreciated seeing you and the opportunity to be with you. And I look forward to the next time we can be together, either electronic or in person.
Yep, indeed.
Super.
Talk to you soon, Johnny.
All right.
Cool, Terry. That was
Awesome.
Fantastic. Great information. I liked number 2, and it made me curious about your early days in screen printing because number 2, human hair was used to weave mesh. So is there any correlation?
Well, I started screen printing in 1979, and there were a lot of long hair folks around, but no, I never.
Okay. I'm sorry. I had to go there, Terry. I had to. I didn't want to, but I had to. Okay. Terry, what do you have coming up here, sir?
All right, March 25th, I'm going to be presenting my DAX online seminar and what I really need to buy when starting a screen printing business. Complete screen printing business course with Atlas Screen Supply will be May 22nd and 23rd. Plus, we have a few other dates further down the road.
Cool.
Aaron, on Monday, I'm going to be getting together with Tyler Dummett at Workhorse Products, and we are going to schedule out the year for screen printing classes at Workhorse in Phoenix. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we were communicating and saying, let's do it. Let's get this thing going. Let's get our masks on and get out there in person. So you can find all my events, upcoming events, and I'm hoping to post those workhorse classes by Monday evening. You can find those at terrycombs.com.
That's awesome.
How about you,
Terry?
Aaron?
No, that's really cool that you guys are getting that back together. So
Yeah.
other people can come experience your 9 inches of sunshine with no end in sight, right? That's
Right.
All right. For me, Terry, coming up here in just a moment, 11:30 a.m. Central Time here, about 24 minutes away. Eric Campbell and I, you can catch The Half, and it's 30 minutes of Q&A, and Eric came up with a fantastic name for it, In the Half, because trust us, you don't know the half of it because we don't either. So it's just a little bit of 30 minutes of fun, and we keep it to 30 minutes. Like it goes off, it's done at noon Central Time. The button is pushed and it's over. So that's happening here in just a little bit. Small Business Saturday tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. This week we'll be talking about co-opetition. It's a term that I actually learned from the volleyball world. And as I've been speaking with folks about how they're managing through the pandemic, I've brought that term up a couple times, and it seems to kind of grown some legs here. So I want to talk a little bit more about what the heck co-opetition means and how we can use that to our advantage and be the surviving companies like we talked about today with Johnny. So I'll have that conversation happening tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Time over at liveosg.com or on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Our Success Group Pro. You mentioned the DAX online seminars. I've got a couple of them happening April 5th, Conquer Fear and Live to Tell About It. So we're going to talk about how small businesses can kind of overcome their fears and be able to step outside their comfort zones and do things that they need to do for success. So I'll share some techniques that I've learned through my training, becoming a Jack Canfield Success Principles trainer. And we'll take that information and turn it into the art of success. So I'm looking forward to sharing that here on the 5th of April. A couple days later on the 7th, I will be talking about finding your niche for more success. And, as you guys know from hearing us here on Two Regular Guys, in fact, coming up next week, we'll have another niche marketing show. We haven't done it in a while, so looking forward to talking niche marketing. But we're gonna focus on how do we find that niche? You know, what does it mean, and then walk through the steps to figure out what is your unique niche. You know, Terry and I might be doing the exact same things, having some of the exact same processes, but have two completely unique and different niche markets based on who we are, what we value, all that kind of fun stuff. So
exactly. Yeah.
Looking forward to talking about that. So, and then let's see what else is coming up here today. Eric has got his show, The Take Up, happening. And Eric, are we talking about future-proofing machine embroidery designs? Is that yes? I'm getting the thumbs up. So we're future-proofing machine embroidery designs, scale, sequence, and execution. That's 2:30 Mountain Time for all of the rest of you that live in center of the universe time like me. That's 3:30 Central Time. Or Terry, you're in Mountain Time right now, right?
I'm in Mountain Standard Time right now.
All
Yeah.
right. See, I missed the standard time, and that's where I get really confused. So
Yeah.
anyhow, 2:30 Mountain Time. You want to catch Eric for The Take Up, episode 52, 51, 53, something like that. Eric's. Yeah, something in those. He's been doing it for over a year, and fantastic job by him. Just love seeing all the people talking about it. Actually, there was a post on LinkedIn today from our friend Nate Lieber talking about how you should follow his Eric's YouTube channel. So you can find all of that at ericcampbell.com. There we go. Okay, perfect. And then Eric's going to be talking at the DAX show. The online seminars as well. He's going to be covering moving from hobby to pro and e-commerce for embroiderers. So look for that over at daxshow.com. And we're getting closer. Eric and I continue to discuss how we kind of do this. Eric is a crazy busy guy doing so much amazing stuff all the time. So just trying to pin him down, right? Terry, I haven't been able to put my finger on him yet, but maybe I'll make him say
he's moving around.
He's wiggly. No, maybe I'll make him say something in the half here. You know, I mean, just put it out there publicly.
I think that's
he may not join me. Actually, shoot. Okay, all right. So
it'll be half of the half.
It'd be half of the half. Yeah, exactly. I love that. So anyhow, probably talking about selling patches, and so definitely stay tuned. Again, you can find all of his information over at ericcampbell.com. So. But Terry, we have come to the close of another show. I want to thank Johnny Shell so much. Make sure you're reaching out to him. The fact that he is an available resource to you to bring in and have him help and consult with your shop right now is a huge blessing for our industry. You know, he was busy before, but now that he is an available resource, do not miss this opportunity to work with Johnny. He's amazing, Terry. So
yeah, absolutely. And he's certainly been a friend of both you and me for many, many years, and been a great resource. And he's a great guy. So he's definitely somebody fun to work with. You know, you mentioned Eric. We want to thank Eric for producing the show again and keeping things running smoothly and making this show better every week. Yeah,
he does a great job. And I was giggling at the same time because he put a comment in there saying, "Join Aaron alone for the quarter." That's great. All right. Well, as I mentioned, Terry, next week we're going to be talking about niche markets. It's been a while, and so it's one of our favorite topics. So we're getting back to that. But before we get into niche markets, we're actually going to be joined by Cheryl Kuchek to talk to us about the upcoming Sublimation Summit, the online version of that happening, I believe, March 10th, if I remember right off the top of my head. But she'll be here next week early to give us the details, and then you and I will dive into niche markets. I think when we talk about your 52 niche markets in 52 minutes, I think we're at like minute number 10 by now.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got great stuff going on there, Terry. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it as well. But until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And we are the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.